Welcome to our fifth episode of the Artsakh Podcast featuring Gevis Gadjan, Executive Director of ANC Artsakh, and myself, Hago Pipjan, Advisor to the President of the Republic of Artsakh. We will be your host. The aim of the podcast is shedding light on the ground realities and ongoing developments, and most importantly, continuing to share the stories of the resilient people of Artsakh. We are currently on day 279 of the blockade. It's official. The National Assembly has voted for the fifth president. The new president is Mr. Samvel Shahramanian. The new state minister is expected to be appointed on Monday, and as we had informed on our previous podcast, he's from the Free Motherland Azad Hayranik Kımada party. It's Mr. Artur Harutyunyan, the faction leader. For the first time since June 15, humanitarian cargo has entered the Republic of Artsakh. The aid consists of almost 15 tons of Russian-made basic necessities, including food, hygiene items, and they were sent by the Russian Red Cross. Also this week, we saw a continuation of spreading disinformation by the Azerbaijani MOD, and also a continuation of the ceasefire violations in the regions of Marduni and Mardagerd, which resulted to a soldier's injury. Fortunately, his life is not in danger. And the United States Foreign Relations Committee held a hearing titled Assessing the Crisis in Nagorno-Karabakh on September the 14th. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this is one of the first key hearings that we've seen where actual pressure is being put on the State Department now. We saw various senators, including Senator Menendez and other leading chairmen of the Senate, grill the State Department, who for many instances, and I think most notably, couldn't come up with answers, especially to the last question that was posed by Mr. Menendez, asking, do you know why Azerbaijan continues to keep the Lachin corridor open? And the reason they didn't answer, which many people can deduce, anyone familiar with the process, is because Azerbaijan, namely Aliyev, is using this as a tool of coercion to extort and to get extractions out of the people of Artsakh through forced subjugation. Obviously, we are fighting against that, and we've got plenty of people helping us in that fight today, including today's guest.
Well, today with us is Mr. Ruben Vardanyan, a notable public figure, celebrated his role as the co-founder of the We Are Our Mountains Regional Development Agency and his position as the State Minister of the Republic of Artsakh. Widely recognized as the visionary behind the Russian stock market, he garnered further attention in 2021 when he got his Armenian citizenship and subsequently relinquished his Russian citizenship. In 2022, he made a significant move to Artsakh. Mr. Vardanyan is renowned not only for his contributions to finance, but also social entrepreneur and venture philanthropist, co-founding the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative. Thank you for coming, Mr. Vardanyan.
Thank you for inviting.
Mr. Vardanyan, I think the last time you and I spoke, we did an interview at the government building, and so much has changed since that time, right? Both for you personally, for the country at large. Can you tell us a little bit about what the last year has been like? I know there's been many challenges, but through your lens, I'm sure so many people want to hear.
Interestingly, you're right and wrong, because for me, despite our living conditions become much more difficult and worse, from point of my strategy, my vision, my philosophy, not so many things change, because I moved here September 1st last year because I felt that we are going in a very dangerous period of the life of Artsakh. And I knew it will be very tough. And I said I'm the soldier who will come and stay here, and doesn't matter which position I will be responsible. I'm happy to provide my services to my motherland. I've been here before November 4, like the co-founder of We Are Our Mountains Development Agency, became the state minister, stay around 115 days until end of February. And after we started our new movement, the front of in the security and development of Artsakh, where we engage in a lot of different political forces, individuals, And just a couple of days ago, we celebrate 100 days of this movement, and we present our work, which we did during this last 100 days. And yes, situation become much more difficult for all of us. At the same time, I think people more and more becoming realistic about what is Azerbaijan strategy, what they want to do, how they're trying to use different instruments, including humanitarian crisis, to push us in directions where they believe they can achieve a goal to occupy Artsakh and make Artsakh part of the Azerbaijan.
Mr. Vardanyan, when you first, and let's speak bluntly, when you first came here, there was a lot of enthusiasm on behalf of the people because it's a diasporan coming to Artsakh by his own choosing, a diasporan with your means, your ability. And I think that garnered, a lot of support. At the same time, you had detractors too, right? You had people that may have said, he's here for political purposes. He's here to do this, to do that.
To make money, huh?
Whatever those rumors may be. But I think you've proven by staying here during the toughest times without an official government position and continuing to do the work through We Are Our Mountains and the security initiative that you're committed to this place. Can you tell us a little bit about the work that you guys are doing through both of those initiatives? And I know it's work that's so much harder now because you can't bring in supplies from the outside. You have to make do with the means that exist. And I think it's been a very interesting thing that I've seen the food programs that you guys are offering. I've seen the security initiative stuff. All of that doesn't happen in a vacuum. You guys are doing that with all of these compounding challenges in a blockade, right?
It's true. Yeah, first of all, I did nothing heroic. I did normal things, which I thought would be normal behavior of the person who really love your own country and your own nation. This is why I, from first day, said it's nothing heroic was doing. Ruben Vardanyan did it, and you have a lot of speculation because people believe I'm the Messiah and I will save Artsakh. I know something what other people didn't know, and they thought if it's person from Moscow moved here, it's something he knew. And this is
something
why,
nefarious going on. Yeah.
The second part, people who didn't believe a person can move just because he loves his own nation, his own country, try to find a black cat in the black room. It would not exist, but people try to find some speculation, some conspiracy theory used to explain why I'm here. I always said, in the long run, everything becoming clear, everything become more and more open for the people who live here, people who live outside, and this is why longer I'm staying here, people can see what is my goal and why I'm here. What we did during the first day I came, my first meeting with the government, I said, how we are prepared to the blockade, how we prepare to harsh winter, how we prepare for the resistance and the fight against the much bigger enemy. And this was my philosophy because I said, this is the Sardarabad. This is the time when we are standing in the end of the very difficult situation, at the end of the road where we have a cliff, and if we will not do anything, we will disappear. This is why all my activities have been from first day, and we split it in 4 levels. One, to try to have a strategy, to try to see the vision, because one of the important things to try to find the vision about how Artsakh can stay Armenian, secure, and free to have his own choice how, in which way and when he will join to Armenia. And be happy also. And this was very important philosophy saying we don't need to be secure and...
a life with dignity,
life
right?
Life with dignity, good wording, yeah, thank you. And we said, okay, we have a strategy. We discussed the strategy with the hundreds of people who live in Artsakh. And the first reaction was, what are you doing? Why we are talking about everyday food and job and collapse of full economy collapsing. But I said, no, it's very important to have a vision. And we discussed and we put in the paper the vision, and also we put the reasons why we came here in this moment, what happened with us during the last 30 years. It was also a very important analysis. And second, we said, okay, let's have a long-term strategic project. Let's have a project which was very important for preparing for winter, for example, or something which is midterm, and try to solve some short-term problems. This is why when you look back what we did during the last 100 days, we did around 34 projects in short-term group, because it was important to show people, despite all the challenges, we can do something together. And it was very different areas, in security area, or in food area, or in education area, or in a culture heritage area. We started reconstruction, and despite all the challenges and renovation of one of the oldest monastery in Artsakh, we did a special education program for leadership for young people. We did a program how to provide first medical aids with AGBU, and again we try to do many things, like we provide the food for the most
vulnerable groups,
which really today cannot find food, and we provide this electromobile which provide pregnant women can go to hospital. We try to do as much as we can, despite all the limitations which we face because of all the blockade, which become worse and worse. The most important, you're doing something. Your resistance, your readiness to say, despite all, I'm not give up. I'm not sitting at home saying I cannot do anything. I just, very important, every day doing something, and doing not alone, together. It's also very important. We did always very collegially.
So this isn't just a fight against the blockade, a fight against subjugation. This is a fight against cynicism as well, right? This is about instilling the belief that our destiny is still within our hands.
Absolutely, especially for young people. We have a youth alliance of clubs, which include the Bekor Club and Monte Club in Stepanakert and Martuni. And we participate in all our programs. We did a lot of things showing people never give up. Never give up despite all the difficulties you are facing day by day. And it was also very important people believe that they can influence some of the things which looks so big, so political, big players doing something. But we did some actions. We collected signatures against ethnic cleansing. We closed the road to Berzor corridor. We closed the road on Akna, Steba, Askeran, and it was all actions that people can see what we can do. We did a big meeting when people came together and we spoke about our vision. So we organized some good concert and tried to give people also good national dancing, for example. We provided national dancing lessons for people just to learn how to stay close to each other and dance and feel that you're not alone. So you're trying to give people this very important three elements. First, trust each other, which was very difficult and big problem in Artsakh. Feel what you're not alone, and would never give up.
Yeah.
Mr. Vardanyan, I want to take you back a little bit. You came to Artsakh, and then a few weeks later, you got appointed as state minister.
2 months later.
Yeah. How did you find the state ministry? What was the situation?
What was the state of the state ministry?
I will be very frank.
That's what we want.
I never thought I will be in a government position, especially in a situation that we faced already in autumn. But I did what the president wanted, and my first reaction was that we have a 31 year to 32 years of the time, 31 years of the history of building the state of Artsakh, which is very important because you need to respect the institutions, you need to respect the state philosophy,
the mechanisms and everything.
In other hand, I found strange because we try to live in two realities. In one reality, we've been under serious pressure. It already was clear with Azerbaijan creating more and more pressure to us. And at the same time, we're trying to live like nothing happened, and we continue with these political discussions, all this bureaucracy. And so for me, one of my major challenges was at the time I lived in a situation where this is a serious crisis. It's a unique emergency situation. We need to create absolutely different way how we manage, how we make decisions, how we implement decisions. decisions. And in other part, people say, no, you must follow the budget, the other things, you need to go this parliament. And I understand they try to keep these institutions alive, but most of the time it really was more just showing what, it's not what's real, it's more formal. This was
it's bureaucracy.
It's not so much bureaucracy, it's just, again, rejection of accepting that this is the military situation and we need to behave absolutely different. But for example, we started from first week I became the state minister. I organized operative body who includes not only government officials but from parliament, from private sector, I took everyone who can influence the decisions of most important infrastructure questions or other. And I didn't look from which institutions we are or which public sector we are. And it was a lot of criticism about this because it really was different approach. For example, I used a lot of advisors who came from private sector, advisors who been not from Artsakh, and it was also very important for me to get this maximum engagement of the diaspora. It also was not very well received sometimes from local people. Again, it's normal because, again, people get used to live themselves and they are more formalized. So, this is the minister. Why your advisor calling the minister? Well, right? And I can prove it, by the way.
I've had my fair share of experience. Yeah. And the thing is, it's like the organization level, when Mr. Vardanyan was there, look, I've had 5 state ministers since I've been here.
Yeah.
Guys,
that's
incredible. I can make a chart. Not even compare. And maybe 10 or plus ministers that they've changed.
Yeah.
This is, I'm sorry to say, but this is ridiculous.
More than anything, I think it's inefficient to see any strategy, especially one on a governmental statewide scale, takes more than weeks, takes more than months. Sometimes it takes years and decades. But, I think that Mr. Vardanyan, you touched on something important. It's something important to all of us in this room. About bringing in people from the outside, bringing in Armenians from wherever they may be. You come from Moscow, Hagop from London, I'm from LA, all with the same mentality and the ideology that the future of Artsakh and the responsibility that carries to see a bright future is and that burden is on all of us. It's not just all in this room, it's not just the people of Artsakh. How do we do a better job at that? How do we get the synergy, the cumulative energy and the resources of the diaspora focusing on Artsakh?
You touch, I think, one of the most important points, because I always said from first day, Artsakh is critical not only for Armenians who live in Artsakh, but for entire Armenian world. And if we lose Artsakh, we lose Armenia. And I'm continuing convinced about this. Also, I believe that Armenia and Artsakh so interlinked to each other. But you cannot say, okay, I will cut Artsakh and they survive something themselves and Armenia will stay separate. It's not possible. It's not possible. We face, I think, couple challenges. The first challenge is closed mentality inside Artsakh. You need to open-minded and needs to be more ready to use the people's experience and people who far away. And because when you're staying in a place like Artsakh, we've been always surrounded by Azerbaijan, always been close, it's quite difficult. Second, the leadership, the leaders of the country needs to say, we want it, and really push hard to this. Because if you're not doing like every day saying, why you're not using this resources, why you're not engage some people from different countries but with very good specialists, it will not happen automatically. The third, because of the historical already tradition, most of Armenians who've been in Artsakh been only or service like army when it was there, or they come like tourists, but it was not enough. We also did charity activities, but it was not enough.
Nation building.
National building, yeah. It was not jointly discussions, jointly decisions about future of Artsakh. I'll say also indifference which exists in diaspora, because they said we cannot do anything anymore, we're tired, it's too difficult, too complicated. But it's okay if you're consistently pushing, if you are consistently delivering messages, if you are providing enough information, you can get a lot of support. We get a lot of support. All our activities supports hundreds of people. And also you need to ask them not only financial support, but also ask them to do something. For example, we now prepared the letter to the all Western companies who operate in Azerbaijan and said, please, all Armenians who live in a different part of the world, send these letters to the employees and the head of the company saying, do you understand what you're working and paying the taxes in a country who trying to do genocide? And you were part of it because by your paying the taxes, you are supporting.
Complicit, yeah.
And it's a small example. Again, it's not, we don't expect this will be, but it's pressure, right? It's pressure. And people can see action. The same like the signatures or doing some other things like we work very hard with Armenian and non-Armenian people. And I want to say big thank you to the people who, like Prince Michael and others, said they are ready to put their life in the risk to fly in a plane who can be shut down. It's not so many Armenians ready. And people said we are ready. Can you imagine? And we are joking what this number is. Prince and Baroness Koch. Absolutely. Koch, again, which I know very well. And she came, and she, despite all this, she came here. Again, it's showing courage for the people who are not Armenian. And we need to support this type of the examples, but not, we're trying to always find, again, something strange or something to criticize. So I say, of course, the major challenge also Armenian government position, because without Armenian state changing problem, because it's very difficult to explain the world what we're in a crisis. Very difficult to explain the world what we are starving.
Armenia is doing nothing.
Armenia doing not nothing. Very enjoying life. Yesterday, the prime minister, without being shy, said 0 words about Artsakh, 0 words about 120,000 people really today facing one of the deepest crises. And at the same time, he was so proud explaining what Snoop Dogg coming and he's doing present and spending millions of dollars to make this concert in Armenia.
Even Snoop Dogg did a post. Well,
even Snoop Dogg mentioned Artsakh. Do you think, Mr. Vardanyan, that this is, one, they don't care, or two, they understand very well what's going on, and they're of this, like, distorted mindset that if Artsakh is not the forefront of the Armenian nation, but it's a problem?
I think it's different. If you look what he's doing last already years after they lost the war, first of all, he and his team has the mentality of losers. When you lost in a box, your mentality is very difficult to give. You can physically come back.
Capitulated mindset, right?
Yeah, that's why they don't believe they can fight. They don't believe they can resist. They don't believe they can do anything. That's why you can see in his eyes, he's give up. He's saying there's no chance. Let's try to find something solution with peace. The second, he touched during the last months very dangerous area of the national values. Not only about you can see about his discussion about the hymn, about the Mountain of Ararat, about Nemesis, about the
church, our history.
History. You can
the declaration,
see he's trying
the independence declaration. That was ridiculous.
Unhappy women, which his wife mentioned, all the people deserters. Again, we can mention and you can see.
Even the wording that they use, they'll never say Artsakh. They'll always use the same wording. They're completely, schooled.
This is why the second point, in my view, they have some agenda which we don't know why they put this destroying the national beliefs in their own future state. The third, I think they try to keep the power and they don't care about anything else. They just understand they have no argument. They're trying to use the old ancient Rome principle, bread and show, right? To give people, take their attention out of the key problems and just provide them more and more shows. And the fourth, say, they also very well feel some people's tiredness about what's happened in Artsakh. We lost thousands of
lives.
Our young generation boys, which really it's one of the most difficult and harshest event in our modern history. And they're using this quite well to try to manipulate people's emotions. So I think it's combination of things. I think it's trying to keep the power using all the instruments and also the lost mentality of person who lose.
Mr. Vardanyan, I was telling Gev the other day that it's really interesting. They've started campaigning from now. It's crazy how they work. They're going village from village, promising schools, promising this, promising the other one. They want to stay in power, and they want to find a way to do that. And they're going to do it on the expense of Artsakh, on the expense of the taxpayer, on building infrastructure which is not needed, because we all know that, in the Sunni area, we've had friends who've come from there and they've told us things. So the infrastructure there is very poorly made. There's areas that there's no gas.
Jacob, is more difficult, more complicated. If you look back with 5 years, what we did, it's clear. 90% what they promised, they didn't deliver.
Yeah.
For example, we didn't make the constitutional reform to decrease the power of the prime minister. He's one of the number one. His statement. He promised that the people who live outside of Armenia will have a right to voting and be part of the engagement of the.
But he realized the diaspora is against him, so he cut
down.
Yeah. He quickly reversed that.
Yeah. He trying to present what we're doing is schools and buildings, but again, it's not the buildings. When you do buildings without content, we're changing the content of historical books, content of ever, and this is why it's you can see, building the roads and building the buildings, you can show something very quickly, but you're not creating add value. Your GDP, for example, we're so happy about Armenian economy is booming, but if you look inside, it's a construction industry. Tourism and trading is not sustainable. It's not sustainable financial industry.
And a big part of it is the repercussions of the war up north. It's people coming into Yerevan. It's people actually skyrocketing prices of rent. And I don't think anyone's thought the economic ramifications through. They're like, oh, look, there's more buildings, there's more people. Well, the people that have lived in Yerevan for 30 years now can't afford an apartment there, right?
But other point, why you trying to make the Yerevan, capital of Armenian world, bigger and bigger? Because usually in a big city, you need to have factories, you need to have a lot of businesses. But most of the people who come now, they are not having any activities. Basically, you're losing you're making your security from the regions. People living like from Sunik, we're getting less and less people. You are getting more and more problems because the transportation it will become much more tougher because we're building construction, we're building all these buildings without really any norms. You can see in 10 years' time it will be full collapse, but it will be not very time. Short term, we build whatever tens of thousands new apartments. The third, they really make these people depending from the state because state provide a lot of assistance to them, and this is making them more dependable from who has the power. All things you can see is not by strategy. It's not about how to make us stronger.
It's about how to stay in power.
Yeah, because I always said our main oil and gas is our diaspora, our talented Armenians who live in Armenia and Armenians who live in diaspora. This is our biggest resources which we're not using at all. And the question, during these 5 years, what we did for really engaging and making this oil and gas, our main resources, work more efficient? How many new companies was opened, not from betting, not from tourism, again, from how many industries we must have, well, for example, in the private military services, in technology, and many other things. Again, you can see what is a lot of populism, but is not strong vision and sustain and very consistent approach to build step-by-step long-term success of Armenia. It's short-term. Immediately want to get today and show what we want to move to universities. I'm crazy when I heard this idea. They decided to discuss idea from center of Yerevan to move all universities, some special universities. I said, doesn't matter if your university is number whatever 1,000 in ratings, you can build new buildings. It's nothing to change.
It's quantity over substantive quality,
Absolutely.
Right? Mr. Vardanyan, I think we're on a good note here. And a lot of people, as a stakeholder, not just in Artsakh, but for the Armenian nation yourself, we're in a difficult situation. And I don't expect you to have all the answers. I don't think anybody has all the answers. But what is the vision moving forward for Artsakh now internally, what do we need to change and do? And externally, on the international stage, what do we need to do?
You'll be surprised. I have a vision. Doesn't mean that I'm right, but we have a strong vision. We have a strong. We don't need to be scared to discuss about very difficult subjects, with difficult points, and we discuss it. And we said, okay, we from first day said clearly we have three choices: accept his occupation and become part of Azerbaijan, leave Artsakh, or fight. And I always said, for the first two, I don't want to discuss. It's not part of our vision. And for fight and stay and keep the status quo, because we realize we cannot expect something immediately will be solved. I said, okay, we have a couple very important internal issues. First, we need to rebuild trust inside of society. Without trust, you cannot do anything. Second, you need to build trust to the leadership, to the who managing the country in this current situation. You need to really rebuild this feeling we are together in the same boat. It's not like separate groups have a separate life standards. You need to be clear about this is the military time, and you need to be very strong discipline and very strong punishment for people who violate the rules. It needs to be censoring and serious ideological work to bring people minds, because Azerbaijan doing a lot of brainwashing. So we need to put limitation of the some of the public normal lives that we had in the current type of situation. We need to put rights to confiscate some of the ownership if the people need it for the security. It needs to be done tough because it needs to be clearly explained and trusted by people. It is not done by private interest, but done for the interest of Artsakh. We have two issues, which is very clear, which we need to keep in mind if we want to continue to stay here and feel what this is our home, and we will not leave. We need to. We're not alone. Armenian world needs to have this way. From here, it needs to be a clear message. We are together, and we want to send the message to the world. This is part of very important Armenian part of the Armenian entire world. This is why I can see if we were slowly going in this direction. Doesn't matter what will happen during the next couple of weeks. Azerbaijan cannot observe or occupy Artsakh in days or weeks' time. It will take a very long period of time. We cannot push just out of Artsakh Armenians they left here, because the international community will not allow. This resistance needs to be shown. We need to show this will not happen. The other point, we need to create big pressure to Armenia, saying, Armenia, you need to change your position. Armenian state, you need to change your position. And I think the most harsh decision will be Armenia needs to recognize Artsakh part of Armenia, which will create absolutely serious crisis for all international. But if we can see what Azerbaijan is doing in direction, pushing us in direction where is no other option, or fight or die, this is one solution. The other solution, to create the pressure for the world, saying, guys, this is what's happening, is a genocide, and it's not just trying to make the soft and not explain the world what this is you will be guilty. Western companies, Western institutions, Russia, you all will be far of the guiltiness of killing. And
the blood is in your hands.
Yeah. This is why, again, we need to be very coherent and very well organized inside. We need to be loud to send the message in the world, and we need to be very demanding to our Armenian world, saying we are a critical element of Armenian. So I say all three elements needs to be done simultaneously. We need to consolidate society here and build the trust, rebuild the trust, and have an understanding of the reality. Don't take any illusions. We need to create all the necessary engagement of Armenian world and our friends. And the third, we need to be ready for fight. And it just needs to be prepared every day.
On your point about the fact that we need to have Armenia see Artsakh as an independent Armenian republic, I think the majority of the Armenian populace living in Armenia agrees with that. We're not asking for a dramatic shift, but to change the stance of the Armenian government.
Yes.
I think we need to change the representatives of the Armenian government, because that's where we are today.
Yes, but let's give it to the people who live in Armenia. They need to raise their voice. They need to understand the reality. It's also one of the things which I faced here and I faced in Armenia is sometimes people trying to be in a lethargic dream when you are not accepting the reality and you avoiding
when you don't live the reality too, Mr. Vardanyan, right? It's different. Let's say, walking around Yerevan, things are bright, nice, fireworks. And then it's different standing in line for 3 hours for bread in Artsakh.
But
there's people that even here do that.
But I want to say one important thing. I said this, and I want to be, again, very clear, because it's very important. In a concentration camp was the weddings. And people celebrate the birthday. It's not the problem what people do a wedding here.
No.
It's a problem how they do it, which way you organize. For example, we're doing big weddings in Armenia, and it will be normal if the young couple who believe they are good Armenians say, you know what, all our presents, don't give us, it will go to Artsakh kids.
Yeah.
Again, small elements, you do organize your wedding, not just nothing happen around you, or you're doing this concert or festivals. For example, we did in Dilijan wine festival, my friends, and they said, all the revenue will come to Artsakh. Yeah. Okay, this is the normal thing. It's why the change mindset. This is the important.
It's not the material; it's the mindset.
And also, we don't need to be in a all saying, "Oh, we need to cut everything. We don't need to do anything. We need to be in a depressed." I'm not saying, but behavior needs to be changed, and behavior needs to be explained. And it's a sad where the young people's parents who organize all big weddings don't understand this. It needs to be done differently. It needs to be with the understanding of reality, what's happening in Artsakh.
And look, the intention isn't to say that, because things are tough here, you need to, in Yerevan, think a certain way. If you're thinking just purely selfishly even, today it's Artsakh. Tomorrow, it's Sunik. Actually, today it's Sunik too.
Yeah.
Tomorrow it's Yerevan, and the next day we're gonna. I don't know what that discussion is gonna take us.
I have two questions which I really want people in Armenia ask themselves. First, what Armenian government will do if tomorrow Azerbaijan will attack Artsakh? What is the answer? Is Armenian government ready to defend Artsakh or not? And this is very important.
It doesn't look like it at the moment.
The second question, during the last couple of weeks, we saw the concentration of the army from Azerbaijan in the border of Armenia. Prime Minister called many officials. How much he spoke with the people inside. How well we prepared. How Yerevan is prepared to defend if something will go. The war is, again, the border is not far. And we all see Jermuk happened. It's 100 kilometers. It's nothing. You can get this very clearly, very close to your home. How well we prepare internally to this type of the serious crisis? Zero. It's two questions which you can see with the current leadership absolutely don't want to answer. They want to take responsibility and say, guys, it's tough. We have an army, but we all need to be ready. You need to be ready what will be mobilization, or you'll be ready to explain how and which way you will defend the Yerevan, who needs to do what. And again, not always try to depend from somebody else. We
look for a savior.
Yeah, if somebody's savior, we need to say, we all know from the street, street smart. When you want to fight and you're small and you're not enough strong, if you are in yourself ready for fight, you will get some people who will support you. If you're only screaming and saying, help me, nobody will help you. That's why I'm a strong believer until we, all Armenians who live in Artsakh, in Armenia, and diaspora Armenians will feel this is our responsibility. We are responsible for our future. We are responsible what will happen with us. Nothing will change. This is why, unfortunately, we are facing not only crisis with our neighbor, two countries, not only problem with our union, Dashing, Russia, not only with the West, we ignore all our problems.
It's an existential crisis we're facing.
We have existential crisis. But I'm optimist, and I believe we are, despite all these challenges, we'll get through this, and we'll become stronger, and we will build our future ourselves.
Mr. Vardanyan, look, I'm going to bring some controversy to the table. Okay, we spoke about, nothing coming from... I know you've answered this earlier this week. I watched your Facebook questions and etc. You've answered it, but I want our audience to understand and hear about that as well. The same happened with Kashan. If you remember, when they wanted to come to the mine, you said definitely no, we won't allow that. That's a red line. But a few weeks later, we changed it a little bit. We said that international monitoring groups can come. Okay, now the same with Ardam, Akna Road and the humanitarian aid that has come. In the beginning, it was a red line, and it's still a red line, but we're still allowing it. How far, are we going to allow these red lines to be crossed, and when do we react to this?
It's a very good question and very important question. We, like the movement, representing the part of the society. We are not representing the entire society, and we have in our society different groups with different approaches. Some of the groups said, let's open and have a trade between the Akna, Askiran, let's open the big trading center. They said, why the Kashan will operate under Azerbaijan ownership, no problem, we'll pay taxes. This is why we need to understand first, we like women have a very clear red lines. The same like Ruben Vardanyan has a very clear red line about Kashan. But there's two elements. One element, who is making decision? As soon as we have a president who made in the time of Kashan decision, he needs to, like in army, execute or resign.
Lead or make way.
And this was, for me, was very strange to see the people who said, I was against it, but as soon as the president said this needs to be done, I said, okay, I will support it. Minimize the damage, because sometimes you can say, okay, I understand why you're doing it. The same with the Akna. We have a very clear 6 red lines. The road to Lachin corridor, which was violated from April 23rd. But we said from first day, let's every day fight for this is the red line crossed. But what we did, unfortunately, in a state level, we said, it's a red line, but started to use. And we didn't fight every day to needs to be open. Or we fight, but not consistently, not enough strong. We said about passport, about money, about the rule of law, about the infrastructure. And when we saw where it's going, we closed the Akna Askiran road. And said this is a red line because we saw it was very unacceptable if Azerbaijan product came or some people will start use this road. Now, when you say this red line, it's very important to stay and say it's not rose line or it's become green, it's red line. The question, which way you're fighting, because sometimes red line can be violated, like in Lachin corridor. But you said, okay, I'm fighting.
What is the response?
You can say publicly, you can have organized the meetings, you can put more harsh, for example, going military operation and take out
the border.
But it's decisions with this two different decisions. First, let's define clearly what is a red line and keep this red line always in the same for people. Second, which way you're fighting with red line across, because it's life, and you can sometimes, like in army, like in a war, you can go back and forth, and normally we lost part of Artsakh in the first Karabakh war, but doesn't mean for example. Question, readiness, and again the trust. The main problem of people say, "Oh, they again lie us." No, the question was decision was not made. If you saw our statement in a crisis when before the previous president resigned, we said make decision, not like do by default. Somebody sent the cars, trucks, somebody put the Azerbaijan products, and nobody knows who made the decision. No, make the clear decision. So I think it's very important when you're talking about red lines, about how you respond. At the first, who made the decision? Second, how the decision was executed, and the third, which way you are continue fighting. For example, we are continue keep people in Askiran, Akna, because it's important that people will not allow to come other cars until, again, if it will be new decision of the government, it needs to be also very clearly explained.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll wrap it up. Thank you very much for coming. It's been a pleasure, very insightful.
Thank you for your candor, your candid talk, and for allowing this opportunity for the diaspora and the rest of our listeners to hear you out. And as always, you guys can find us everywhere podcasts are found. Thank you very much.
Thank you.